You watch someone speak with absolute certainty about a topic they clearly do not understand. Their confidence feels like a physical wall that deflects every piece of logic you offer. It is easy to see this glaring lack of self-awareness in a frustrating coworker. You might even notice it in a family member during a heated holiday dinner. But the brain is a master of hiding its own boundaries from its own view. The most profound blind spots are the ones we carry within our own daily lives. By the end of this exploration, you will see the invisible architecture of your own certainty. The sensation of knowing is often more powerful than the actual possession of factual information. Humans have evolved to value the feeling of certainty because it provides a sense of safety. In a primitive world, hesitation often led to death, while bold action ensured immediate survival. This instinct has drifted into the modern mind as a mechanism to avoid psychological vulnerability. When we lack knowledge, the brain perceives a vacuum that feels like a dangerous threat. To fill this void, the mind quickly constructs a narrative that feels cohesive and true. Psychologists Justin Kruger and David Dunning famously observed that low competence often breeds high confidence. This is not a character flaw or a sign of low intelligence in the individual. It is a cognitive glitch where the skills needed to be good are the same skills. You need those specific skills to recognize that you are actually not good at all. Without the baseline of expertise, the mind cannot even perceive the vastness of its ignorance. Most people first notice this pattern in someone close to them, like a stubborn friend. They see the friend arguing about a complex subject with almost zero real-world experience. Yet, that same friend feels entirely justified because their brain is protecting their social status. Admitting ignorance feels like a surrender of power in the competitive arena of modern conversation. We use certainty as a shield to mask the deep-seated fear of being seen as incompetent. This behavior, an adaptive strategy designed to maintain a stable image of the self. If the self-image cracks, the individual faces the crushing weight of their own human limitations. Therefore, the mind works overtime to ensure the internal narrative remains entirely unchallenged and smooth. We prefer a comfortable lie about our abilities over a cold truth that demands growth. This is where the pattern becomes difficult to ignore once you see its underlying structure. What looks like arrogance is often just a survival mind trying to stay upright and safe. The tragedy of the human condition is that we are least aware when we are wrong. Our brains are hardwired to prioritize the feeling of being right over the reality of truth. This ensures that the most confident voice in the room is often the least informed. It creates a social environment where loud assertions frequently drown out quiet, nuanced, and accurate facts. You have likely felt the sting of this when trying to explain a nuance to someone. They dismiss your expertise because their own mind lacks the tools to value what you know. This feedback loop creates a stagnant pool of thought where no new information can ever enter. The ego becomes a fortress that guards against the perceived invasion of any corrective external data. We see this in online forums, office meetings, and even within the privacy of homes. Every time we refuse to say, "I don't know," we are feeding this ancient survival beast. It is a mechanism that once saved us, but now limits our ability to truly see. The cost of this mental shortcut is a life lived within a very small, dark room. We believe we are looking at the sun when we are only seeing a small candle. The walls of this room are built from the bricks of our own unearned and false confidence. Understanding this is the first step towards seeing the invisible cage that traps the human mind. What looks harmless here quietly reshapes everything later as we navigate the complexities of modern life. The pattern is not about being dumb in a clinical sense, but about being human. It is a reflection of a mind that prefers a map over the actual dangerous terrain. Choosing awareness over avoidance means looking directly at the cracks in your own mental map today. Staying with uncomfortable psychological truth allows us to see the world as it truly exists here. Join a space where unspoken patterns are examined honestly to find the depth beneath the surface. The roots of this psychological defense are buried within the soil of early human childhood. A child depends entirely on the adults around them for safety, food, and emotional validation. In this vulnerable state, the mind learns that being right is often synonymous with being safe. Parents and teachers frequently reward the quick answer while showing impatience with uncertainty or slow processing. We are taught from a very young age that knowing things earns us love and attention. Consequently, the developing ego begins to associate a lack of knowledge with a sense of shame. To avoid this shame, the child learns to perform confidence even when they feel internally lost. This performance eventually becomes an automated habit that follows the individual into their adult life. Psychologist Erik Erikson suggested that our early stages of development define our sense of personal competence. If a child is shamed for mistakes, they develop a mask of certainty to protect themselves. This mask is an evolutionary adaptation designed to preserve social standing within the family tribe. In the ancestral past, an individual who appeared incompetent risked being ostracized from the group's protection. The brain treats social rejection with the same intensity as it treats a physical wound or injury. Therefore, the mind develops metacognitive blind spots as a way to avoid feeling that social pain. Metacognition is the ability to think about your own thinking and evaluate your own level of skill. When this system fails, it is often because the fear of being wrong is too high. The mind shuts down the self-monitoring process to maintain a comfortable, though false, sense of mastery. Most people first notice this pattern in someone close to them, like an older sibling or parent. You might see a father figure who refuses to admit he is lost while driving the car. He would rather drive in circles than admit his internal map of the city has failed him. This is not simple stubbornness, but a deeply ingrained fear of losing his status as a protector. The origins of unearned confidence are often found in the desperate need to feel valuable and needed. Social learning also plays a massive role in how we reinforce this dangerous psychological survival strategy. We watch leaders and public figures gain power by speaking with absolute authority, even when they lie. The brain observes that doubt is often punished while a confident lie is frequently rewarded with trust. We internalize the idea that the appearance of knowledge is more valuable than the truth of it. Fear-based adaptation ensures that we prioritize our status over the actual accuracy of our internal belief systems. Over time, the neural pathways for self-correction begin to wither from a lack of regular, honest use. The mind becomes a closed circuit that only accepts data that confirms its own existing sense of power. This is the point where the behavior stops being a choice and becomes a structural reality. What started as a childhood defense mechanism matures into a lifelong cage of intellectual and emotional stagnation. The individual becomes trapped in a version of reality where they can never learn anything truly new. Because learning requires the admission of not knowing, which the survival mind perceives as a total failure, every interaction becomes a battle to defend a territory that was never actually conquered in the first place. This creates a hidden tension that hums beneath every conversation and every decision made in the dark. The mind is constantly scanning for threats to its competence. Living in a state of quiet, high alert, it is exhausting to maintain the illusion of mastery while the foundations of the self remain so brittle. Yet, the brain prefers this exhaustion over the perceived death that comes with admitting a simple mistake. The origin of our certainty is not found in facts, but in the shadows of our insecurities. We build our tallest towers on the weakest ground because we are too afraid to look down. This internal architecture is what makes the pattern so resilient against any form of outside logic. The deeper we go, the more we see that this behavior is a fundamental part of humanity. The internal mask of certainty inevitably leaks into the delicate fabric of our daily human interactions. In the theater of social life, we often perform expertise to secure a higher seat of influence. We use definitive language to signal to the tribe that we are reliable and capable of leading. This dynamic creates a subtle but constant power struggle within every friendship and every professional meeting. The person who speaks the loudest with the most conviction often directs the flow of the group. Even if their logic is flawed, their unwavering tone acts as a psychological magnet for the uncertain. Most people first notice this pattern in someone close to them, like a dominant peer at work. You see them take credit for ideas they barely understand while dismissing the quiet nuance of others. They navigate the office hierarchy by weaponizing a confidence that has no actual basis in their performance. This social expression is a survival tactic used to camouflage a lack of genuine contribution or skill. In romantic relationships, this pattern manifests as a refusal to ever truly yield during a difficult argument. One partner may insist they remember an event perfectly to maintain the upper hand in the conflict. The objective is no longer to find the truth, but to protect the integrity of their ego. Admitting a memory error feels like losing a piece of the self to the other person's narrative. We see this same tension in family dynamics where elders demand respect regardless of their actual knowledge. The hierarchy is maintained through the assertion of knowing better simply because of their age or position. When a younger member challenges a factual error, it is often met with anger instead of curiosity. The anger serves as a defensive perimeter to prevent the collapse of the established social order. In friendships, this behavior can turn a simple conversation into a competitive debate over trivial facts. A friend might argue about the ingredients of a dish with the intensity of a legal trial. They are not fighting for the recipe, but for the validation of their own mental processing power. People who exhibit this pattern often surround themselves with those who will not challenge their fragile reality. They seek out yes-men to reinforce the echoes of their own perceived brilliance and hidden internal insecurities. This creates a social bubble where growth is sacrificed at the altar of constant, unearned emotional comfort. The cost of this expression is the slow erosion of authentic connection and mutual intellectual respect. When we cannot be wrong, we cannot be vulnerable, and without vulnerability, there is no true intimacy. We remain isolated on the islands of our own certainty, shouting across the water at one another. Every interaction becomes a performance rather than an exchange of human experience or shared understanding. This is where the pattern becomes a social poison that quietly kills the potential for real collaboration. Teams fail because the leader cannot see the cliff that everyone else is pointing toward in silence. Marriages drift apart because one person is always the teacher and the other is always the student. The social expression of the hidden self is a dance of shadows where no one feels seen. What looks like a strong personality is often a hollow shell afraid of a single honest question. We witness this in the way people talk over each other in loud, crowded social environments. The speed of the response is prioritized over the depth of the listening or the accuracy provided. It is a race to claim the intellectual high ground before anyone notices the ground is actually sinking. By observing this in others, we begin to see the mechanical nature of our own social defenses. The way we steer conversations away from our weaknesses is a habit we rarely stop to examine. We are all participating in a collective illusion to avoid the discomfort of our shared human ignorance. This social pressure to be right forces us to build lives that are wider than they are deep. The result is a culture where everyone is talking, but very few are actually saying something true. Layer 4. Modern amplification. The digital landscape has transformed a private cognitive glitch into a global psychological epidemic of unearned certainty. Modern technology provides the perfect ecosystem for the survival mind to bypass the friction of actual learning. In the past, asserting a false fact carried the immediate risk of local social embarrassment or correction. Today, the internet allows the ego to find an instant tribe that will validate any level of ignorance. Algorithms are designed to feed us information that mirrors our existing biases and reinforces our narrow perspectives. This creates a digital feedback loop where our initial assumptions are constantly polished and presented as objective truths. The mind no longer has to grapple with the discomfort of being wrong in a public space. We can simply block, mute, or ignore any voice that introduces the threat of a corrective fact. Most people first notice this pattern in someone close to them, like a relative on social media. You see them share articles that are demonstrably false with a level of conviction that feels impenetrable. They are not just sharing news, they are signaling their belonging to a specific ideological or social camp. The platform rewards this behavior with likes and shares, which the brain interprets as genuine intellectual validation. This dopamine-driven reward system quietly encourages the mind to prioritize speed and intensity over accuracy and depth. We are pressured to have an immediate opinion on complex global events we barely even understand yet. Silence or the admission of I do and no is often interpreted by the digital crowd as weakness. The modern environment demands that we perform expertise at a pace that the human brain cannot sustain. Consequently, we rely on headlines and soundbites to construct a shallow facade of total and complete understanding. We trade the slow, painful process of critical thinking for the instant gratification of feeling like an insider. Social norms have shifted to value the brand of the self over the actual substance of the person. We are encouraged to curate an image of a life that is always successful and always right. This cultural expectation intensifies the survival instinct to hide any evidence of mental gaps or personal failures. The workplace has also become a theater where the appearance of confidence is often rewarded over competence. In high-pressure environments, the person who hesitates to gather more data is often bypassed for the bold. Society quietly rewards the pattern of overconfidence while denying the massive psychological and organizational cost it incurs. We see this in the rise of influencers who speak with authority on topics they lack any credentials in. Their confidence is their product, and the audience consumes it as a substitute for their own missing certainty. This creates a world where the loudest voices are the least qualified to lead the collective conversation. The noise of modern life drowns out the quiet reflection required to realize how little we actually know. Our devices have become externalized versions of the ego, guarding us against the invasion of any new ideas. We carry a library of all human knowledge in our pockets, yet we use it to build walls. The irony of the information age is that it has made us more certain of our own delusions. We mistake the ability to search for a fact with the actual mastery of a complex subject matter. This amplification makes the hidden self even harder to detect within the roar of the digital crowd. The pattern is now woven into the very fabric of how we perceive reality and interact daily. We are losing the capacity for the intellectual humility that allows for genuine human progress and connection. What feels like a personal choice is often just a reaction to a system designed to exploit. The cost of this modern certainty is a deepening fracture in our shared understanding of the world. We are moving toward a state where truth is subjective and the loudest person always wins the day. Layer 5. Awareness without resolution. The most unsettling truth about this pattern is that awareness does not grant you an immediate escape. You can study the mechanics of the mind and still remain a prisoner to your own internal biases. Understanding the Dunning-Kruger effect does not suddenly make you immune to the seductive feeling of being right. The brain will continue to prioritize its own safety by generating a sense of certainty where none exists. Even as you watch this, your mind is likely categorizing others who fit this description perfectly well. It is much harder to feel the cold weight of your own limitations in real-time social interactions. Most people first notice this pattern in someone close to them, but rarely in their own mirror. This is because the hidden self is not a mistake. It is a fundamental part of your biology. Your survival depends on a brain that can make split-second decisions without the luxury of perfect, total information. To admit you are wrong is to invite a small death of the identity you have built. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we refuse to consciously acknowledge or see. This unearned confidence is a shadow that follows you into every meeting, every argument, and every dream. It is the silent partner in your marriage and the invisible hand guiding your most important career choices. You will leave this experience with a new lens, but the blurred vision of the self remains. The tension between who you think you are and who you actually are will never fully disappear. There is no simple exercise to delete the instinct to protect your ego from the harsh light. We are designed to be blind to the very things that would make us truly wise and humble. The more you learn, the more you realize that the horizon of your ignorance is actually expanding. This clarity offers no comfort, only a deeper sense of the complexity of the human mental trap. You are now aware of the cage, but the door is locked from a side you cannot reach. Every time you feel a surge of absolute conviction, you must wonder what your brain is hiding. The certainty you feel is often a signal that your self-monitoring system has quietly gone completely offline. Living with this realization creates a constant, low-level friction within your own internal narrative and thoughts. You are forced to inhabit a world where your own mind is a source of constant, subtle deception. There is no resolution to be found in simply knowing that your perception is a curated illusion. The pattern continues because the biological cost of true objectivity is far too high for us to pay. We are destined to walk through life with a map that is missing its most important and vital pieces. The discomfort you feel now is the only honest reaction to the reality of the hidden self. It is a quiet, unresolved tension that will follow you into your next conversation with a loved one. You will see them being dumb and stubborn, and then you will wonder if you are too. This doubt is not a cure. It is a heavy burden that most people choose to ignore. Staying with this uncomfortable psychological truth is the only way to avoid the shallowest version of existence. Choosing awareness over avoidance means accepting that you are a mystery even to your own conscious mind. Join a space where unspoken patterns are examined honestly, even when they offer no relief or finality. The mechanism of false certainty is only one floor in the vast mansion of our hidden psychological architecture. Beneath the need to be right lies an even darker basement regarding how we perceive our own moral goodness. We often assume that our actions are driven by a conscious set of values and clear ethical choices. However, there is a deeper layer that suggests our morality is just another mask for much older instincts. This leaves us with the unsettling question of whether we are ever truly in control of our virtues. Does understanding the lie make the truth any easier to live with in the long run today? Perhaps the most human thing we can do is to sit in the silence of not knowing,